Here we go, opening up our Dark Ascension pack, and there is a Vault of the Archangel in the pack as the rare, and then Mark of Warlord with quite a powerful effect when it enters the battlefield, and the Strangleroot Geist, which is well known from its constructed applications. So, looking at the other cards, there is Faithless Looting, and the conditional removal spell Wreck with Madness, but this is, I think, pretty clearly between the power of Strangleroot Geist versus Vault of the Archangel. Vault of the Archangel has the advantage of being a land, but it is a two-color effect, so you commit quite heavily towards being black-white, which is not a bad combination, but it's actually pretty difficult to splash it. However, I think it's so much more powerful than Strangleroot Geist that we should just go with the rare here. All the action lands, both in Innistrad and in Dark Ascension, have quite a lot of upside once you get them active, and Vault of the Archangel is one of the lands that's almost unbeatable in certain situations. Now, I think we are just going to follow this up with Thraben Doomsayer, which is another first pickable rare. Even without the Fateful Hour, it acts as a token machine every turn after you untap with it. And once again, there is some playable cards here, but actually nothing remotely close. And given that we have first pick Vault of the Archangel, a white or a black pick is exactly what we want. So we can pick that one up. Oh, this is just awesome. Like, Lingering Souls is the one card that you want to see once you've picked up Vault of the Archangel. And it's actually astonishing that it's still in the pack, because I think there isn't many cards I would pick over it. And I can see that the double-faced card has been picked, and then an Uncome. So at this point in the format, I have no clue what kind of card you would pick over Lingering Souls at this point. But of course it's great as a signal and for our deck. Next up, there is Gather the Townsfolk and Death's Caress as options in our colors. Death's Caress, of course, being a powerful removal spell. However, it is kind of clunky and it has the double black casting cost. Gather the Townsfolk is much less impressive. However, we only have white cards this far, so it's actually quite possible to just splash black for the activation of Vault of the Archangel and the flashback on Lingering Souls. So, despite Death's Caress being more powerful than Gather the Townsfolk, I prefer to cut the white cards at this point and see what's happening. Here we have Highborn Ghoul next to Loyal Cathar, and I actually think that Loyal Cathar is one of the best white early drops. Not only in Dark Ascension but in the whole format, so I'm very happy to pick it up 5th. And the fact that we have only picked white cards so far means that our mana base is looking quite potent. Now, thus far this has been quite the easy draft, just picking the good cards. Gather the Townsfolk is debatable, but when you look at the cards I've drafted, I think it fits right in. So here is the first difficult pick in my opinion. The strongest cards are Blood Feud and Mark of Warlord, and the other cards aren't interesting enough to pick them. Grave Purge, Haunted Fangraph, all, well, remotely playable, but nothing compared to the red cards. So if we are going to deviate from white-black, I think picking the card with only a single colored mana is the better choice. We might not play it, but at least the Warlord is easier on the mana base. Next up, there is Silverclaw Griffin and Eversense Collar, which fit into our colors and strategies respectively. And I think the color actually has the potential to be quite insane. I already have 3 humans, and I can only expect to pick up more in the upcoming packs, so Ever Since Color should always be great. It's also colorless, it's cheap, and it offers an effect that not many other cards have. So I think it's an easy pick, and I'm actually surprised to see it go this late. Same goes for the Inquisitor here. It's really almost as good as Mausoleum Guard, and that says quite a lot. So I also like Warden of the Wall in defensive decks with a high mana curve, but right now there's no reason not to pick up the white card, which is also human, has lifelink, so it's basically the perfect card for equipments and maybe also sacrifice effects. This is the Wheel, and Faithless Looting still in the pack, Black Cat and Heavy Mattock. I haven't played this card before, and I don't think it's particularly good. However, we might have a small human theme, and Black Cat is replaceable, we don't really need it, so I'm going to pick up the card I might play. Now, Saving Grasp is quite a good card, but right now I don't have anything to combo with it, and I'm not that interested in going blue with the cards I have available. At this point I want to stay white-black if possible, even white with only a black splash, and maybe play red but not any blue cards. So here I'm just going to take the combo trick. I'm not going to need another one of the X's, so let's pick up Black Cat. It's a creature at least. And these curses, I don't think they do anything. Let's just pick up the discard spell. Even though it's double black, we probably won't be able to play it. Oh, we can pass that one. Sightless Ghoul is actually playable. I don't think you should get it last. It's not a great card, but I've seen worse. Next up we have Cackling Counterpart and Spider Spawning, which is still a good card. But of course for our deck there is basically only Bonds of Faith. Maybe Altar Sweep Tables, but this booster is quite weak, so apart from the two good cards and Armored Scarab, well, there's just not much in here, so I don't expect the Reap to table. Now, this is interesting because it forces us to make another decision considering our colors. We can play it safe by picking Voiceless Spirit and just staying on the white plan. There is a plethora of black cards to choose from: Victim of Night, Patrician and Typhoid Rats. There's also Curse of Stalked Prey, which is quite good with tokens, and I have the Warlord, so I have to consider it. But right now, it's really only Gather the Townsfolk on Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls is good enough on its own, and Gather the Townsfolk doesn't really create evasion creatures. So I'm hesitant to pick up Victim of Night because of my mana, and I think Voiceless Spirit adds enough to our deck that I don't need to pick a non-white card here, especially how good, considering how good First Strike is with Death Touch and equipments. So I'm always happy to have at least one Voiceless Spirit in my deck. And it keeps my options as open as possible. Next up, we have quite some options. A pack full of good cards: Banshee, Murder, Brimstone Volley. And then there is also Moment, Smite, and Traveler's Amulet. So basically, I have a whole lot of cards to choose from. Now, at this point, I don't have a single black card I want to play except for Vault of the Archangel and the Flashback. So black could still be a splash if I'm willing to, for example, play red for the Warlord. I'm not going to pick up another double casting cost card in Murder of Crows. However, I could see myself picking Morkwood Banshee and just going for the white-black cards. However, I don't like the double casting cost. So I think the pick is between Brimstone Volley and Morkwood Banshee, also to take out the one of the stronger cards. And I'm going with the Banshee here, mostly because I'm still hoping to play something of an 11/6 mana base, and not play another color with Vault of the Archangel, because playing Vault and 2 Swamps already takes up 3 of your land spots, so it gets kind of difficult to have a heavy white component and another color supported. And so if it's possible to play black, even if it's just for a couple of cards, I would much prefer that. Next up, we have a decision between Doom Traveler and Spectral Rider. Both are very good on their own, and my deck makes Doom Traveler even better than it is because I have both Vault of the Archangel and the Collar. So I think I'm going with the 1-drop here. Even though I like Spectral Rider quite a lot, I don't think my deck is necessarily going to win with the 2-power evasive creature, but much more with the potential synergies. Even though this is kind of a good stuff deck, or is going to be one, I think having the human creature type is reason enough to pick up Doom Traveler, which is a very good card, especially if you are a mid-range deck that also tends on blocking quite a lot. Next up we have the 3/3 flyer, or the 2/2 human with the death trigger. I have a lot of humans, but I don't like Elder Cathar that much because its own impact on the game is just not that great. It's quite good with some of the cards I have, but Gallows Warden is just going to be good on its own. And I also have Spirit, so I'm always happy with a 3/3 flyer for 5. There's a Moorland Haunt, which would mean I could play both Vault of the Archangel and Moorland Haunt for lots of land activations, but I think I would just weaken my mana base too much for that to be too effective. So I'm going to play it safe with Voiceless Spirit. Here it's between Disciple of Grizzlebrand and Abbey Griffin. Both aren't great. The Disciple is black as well. I have the Eversense Collar, which is quite nice with sacrifice effects, as well as Morkwood Banshee. However, I really don't want to play the Disciple in most of the decks I draft. Same goes with Abbey Griffin, but at the end, Abbey Griffin is still a 2/2 flyer, and Disciple is just a 1/1 ground creature, so picking up the Griffin. I also only have 2 4-drops now, so that's another reason for this decision. Rotting Fensnake is probably not going to make it, so I could consider hate drafting Runic Repetition or Spectral Flight, but I think these cards are not mainstream enough to worry about them. They are most likely going to end up in a sideboard, and if the Spider Spawning deck gets the Runic Repetition, that's how it is. Even though I'm unlikely to play the Fensnake, I at least have the option to board it in. This is the empty pack, and it hasn't improved, of course. So I think Kindercatch or Vampiric Fury are the most powerful cards. Let's just take out the 6-drop. This is Bitterheart, which gives me the chance to open Curse of Death's Hold, and it's potentially stronger than hate drafting another Kindercatch. Now, this was the full pack, and there is still a Smite the Monstrous in the pack, which is actually most likely making my main deck. I don't want to play against Lost in the Mist, but I could see myself needing some enchantment removal. I have a Bonds of Faith, but that's it, so let's pick it up just to be safe. I went a pretty conservative route with the decisions regarding my mana, but I think I didn't lose too much concerning the power level of the picks I had. So, for example, I still got a Morkwood Banshee out of the pack with Brimstone Volley and Murder of Crows, and overall I'm happy to have a powerful but consistent deck. rather than many more powerful cards, but less consistency. So for example, I'm happy not to have the Moorland Haunt. And this is the draft of rare lands, as it seems. So Gavany Township, another tempting card to try to put into the deck, play some forests, but once again I think I'm going to turn it down, and just because there is Mausoleum Guard as a strong alternative, also Blazing Torch could be an option. Once again I think with Vault of the Archangel already, I don't need to play Gavany Township and 2 forests to further make my mana worse. So I think I need just consistent good cards, and Mausoleum Guard is one of them. Hopefully table one of the other 4 drops. Wow. Grim and Reaper from the Abyss and Ludwig's Test Subject and Morkrut Banshee all in one pack. Grim is foiled as well. This is just crazy. I think Reaper from the Abyss is the pick here. Probably Grim is worth quite a lot because it's a foil mythic, but Reaper from the Abyss is going to be, well, actually castable in our deck, even though it costs triple black, which means we probably have to play some more some more swamps. But this is the card I feel I should pick, even though it's actually, I've talked a lot about consistency, but Grim is just so good that I would consider playing some islands to splash him. But I think Reaper is just the safer pick. Mourn of the Unhallowed is a double black card, which I don't want. So it's basically Blazing Torch or Elder Cathar. And I think Blazing Torch offers some removal, which I don't have currently, so let's go with that. Witchbane Orb is not interesting. Village Cannibals could be kind of good in my deck, but it has to be better than Silverchase Fox, and Silverchase Fox is just a very efficient creature for its cost. Now, let's see how many creatures I have. 11 is not that much. But I have Gather the Townsfolk as well, which gives me 2 humans. Actually, I'm lacking playables. So the question is if Village Cannibals is better than Silverchase Fox, and I think with all my human interactions, it has the potential to grow quite large. And I'm not that reliant on the damage output of a 2-drop, so going for the synergistic card. And that means I'm going to pick up Elder Cathar here. It's worse than Screeching Bat, but despite the Reaper of the Abyss, I don't want to play too many swamps, and the human synergies make Elder Cathar the better card. Here we have Typhoid Rats or Night Terrors. Typhoid Rats is actually quite the good card. And that's a late Butcher's Cleaver, rewarding me for all my human picks. And this is going to be in the deck for sure. Next up we have some sideboard cards. One-Eyed Scarecrow, Urgent Exorcism or Night Terrors. And the One-Eyed Scarecrow is quite good against me because I have Lingering Souls, so I think I'm just going to pick that one. And Thraben Sentry and Typhoid Rats wheeled. Thraben Sentry has to be better. My curve is okay and it's a human. This is Morkrut Banshee from the pack with Grim, Reaper from the Abyss, Test Subject and whatnot. So I'm getting a second one. I'll just Reap. Hopefully we don't have to play it, but we could with the human theme. It's actually quite funny. You can pump Village Cannibals and flip Thraben Sentry at instant speed. Gillis Warden doesn't seem too strong. Maybe that pick wasn't the best. And here we have the choice of some artifacts or Brainweevil. I think Brainweevil is pretty good with 2 Morkrut Banshees. could see myself playing it main deck. We don't need the purebloods, thankfully. And Night Terrors. So this is going to be an interesting draft. Here we are with deck building. I just added all the good creatures and the spells we are definitely going to play. And that's already 22 cards, so we have Vault of the Archangel making it in, of course. There is Brainweevil, which is very good with our black high-end cards, and it's actually never bad because you can get some cards out of the opponent's hand, and with the equipment it might even hit for some damage. The alternatives for a 23rd card are, well, Black Cat, Night Terrors, Altar's Reap. Night Terrors clearly worse than Brainweevil. I also don't want to play Ghoul Caller's Chant because I'm lacking early drops. So if this deck needs anything, I think it's a little more defensive cards for the beginning of the game. So we could potentially play 18 lands because Vault is such a powerful effect, and we also have Butcher's Cleaver and, to a lesser extent, the Collar to spend mana on. However, despite our bad curve, it's most of our 3-drops do a pretty good job at stabilizing the board. Elder Cathar, maybe not directly, but once you play another human, is hard to attack into. Thraben Doomsayer, of course, once you untap, and so on. So we also have this as another 3-drop. I think that this deck could easily play 18 lands, and in case we don't have Morbid because we don't have the Brainweevil, we have to contend with just a 4/4 Spirit for 5. And I think that's also not the least important thing, that Morkwood Banshee is actually just an efficient creature, even if you don't trigger it. And we'll find ways to activate it, for example with Blazing Torch or recklessly attacking with our humans. So I think this deck is so powerful that we can easily play 18 lands, and the Vault actually helps with that. Now, Loyal Cathar, Thraben Doomsayer are our double white spells, so despite me being very conservative about my colors, we actually don't have that many white spells that need double white. You could easily imagine white decks in Innistrad Limited with 4 or 5, 6 double white cards, and so this one is on the easier side of the spectrum, which means that we want to play 10 planes, but we could get away with only 9 planes. So let's see how this looks like. 10-7 seems like a reasonable suggestion. We do need double black, but it's only at 5 mana, and we do want triple black, but this is for 6 and above. Of course, Reaper from the Abyss is not going to be a 6-drop most of the time if we aren't flooded with swamps or flooded in general, but it's still powerful enough to include it as a 7 or 8-drop. So the real question is if we gain by gambling a little bit and playing 9 planes and 8 swamps to increase our chances to drop the powerful black cards. But this is, I think this is a very close call. We do have Typhoid Rats as an early black drop, but if we don't have white mana, we have to mulligan. And if we don't have black mana, we are only missing out on 2 early drops. So without black mana, we still have the chance to draw into swamps, even though Reaper becomes almost uncastable, that's for sure. I think you still always play him, and well, who knows, maybe I should have picked Grimgrin. But let's try it with 10-7 and see how that goes.